had 2 straight years where has had a significant injury that has hampered him to a great degree. I really would like to think so. I'm assuming that's the case, but every time I hear he's not out there, it's just a thought. I really hope that he doesn't get to the point where these injuries start chipping away at his greatness, right? Because they need him. He's the one guy that you have in the prime of his career that you're paying primo money to, deservedly so, and you need him to be himself.
Yeah,
for everything to work.
Do I think he will miss games? No, I don't think Jeffrey will miss games because I think even if he has an injury, he's going to try to play it through. It seems like that's his makeup. Yeah, if I can play, I'm going to play. But what happens when you do that, your play diminishes. And the older you get, the harder it is to come back from those injuries. So I hope he is the same player he was 2 years ago, not last year, because last year he was dealing with injuries. And he wasn't as effective as I know he probably wanted to be. It was the year prior where, he was all world. If he can get back to that, then yes. But will he get back to that, dealing with these injuries? Will he miss games? I don't think he'll miss games. But can he recapture what he had going 2 years? Because it seemed like he was getting ready to rocket ship up in the air, but then he dealt with the injuries, and that kind of set him back. So is he still sort of dealing with those nagging injuries? Because it's only going to get worse.
And let's be honest, last year was not Jeffrey Simmons' greatest year as a Tennessee Titan. It wasn't anybody's greatest year as a Tennessee Titan, to be fair. But I do think it's a fair concern. And looking at this list, I think there are some that we can pick out and say, it's just, look, you don't need to be here today. Yeah. Is that D-Hop, Ridley? It's like, hey, you go do your thing. You don't need to be here. But Jeffrey Simmons has not been there. And it hasn't been at the top of my list of concern because of what we just mentioned of Jeff is inevitable. That if Jeffrey Simmons can walk and play, he's going to play and he's going to be out there. And he's proven that year over year. He's earned those skins on the wall and kind of that no big deal at all, but not something that is as concerning to me as maybe a Tavondre Sweat or a Nicholas Petit-Frere, because we now have 2 years of Nicholas Petit-Frere not being able, and he hasn't been out there for minicamp or OTAs. And Tavondre Sweat, he came in with some concerns, and he hasn't built those skins on the wall, that kind of reliability that Jeffrey Simmons has built. And it's just confirming the concerns that maybe we had on draft night of he's overweight, and he had the character concerns. Is Tavondre Sweat hurt? Okay, well, Brian Callahan said it was minor, and he's still not able to be out there. Those, I think, are more concerns for me just because Jeffrey Simmons is such a proven commodity. But it's not nothing.
No, I'm not worried about Sweat nor Nicholas right now. Once we get into camp, if they start missing days in camp, like consistent days in camp, that's where, okay, what's going on here? Right now, you try to make sure they are as healthy as they can possibly be going into camp in July. Because if they are, then we get an opportunity to truly see, Sweat and his element during 2 days, and then Nicholas, see how he has improved. But if you try to throw them out there during this time and they're not ready, you're just going to end up setting them back. But what I am not concerned, I just want to know, the why. The receivers. And the only reason I'm saying this, and not D-Hop, because D-Hop has been with this organization. He and Will Levis have built this camaraderie together. It's Ridley and Boyd. I don't know if was Boyd on that list of
Boyd's
guys?
on the list.
Of guys not being there.
So this is your 1, 2, and 3 were not out there today.
Okay, I don't mind D-Hop. D-Hop has that rapport. He's built that with Will Levis so far.
No Burks as well.
No Burks. I'm concerned, and maybe they've talked about it. Like the Coach Callahan talked with those guys, and it was like, okay, we're not doing much. Y'all can leave. But still, there's a part of me that says, he's a young quarterback. Y'all are new to this offense. Yeah. Be here. I'm just looking at it how I went into Baltimore. Like, I was a veteran guy, but we had a young quarterback there. Wasn't Joe Flacco. Who was the quarterback? Why am I forgetting his name? Kid from Cal.
Kyle Bowler.
Yeah, Kyle Bowler. Kyle Bowler was still a young quarterback, so any opportunity I got to be there with him, I was. Even if it wasn't mandatory. If it was voluntary, I was there. Why? Because I'm trying to build that rapport with the quarterback. Yeah, I'm not worried about anything else. Yeah, I don't have to be here. Yes, I'm in condition, but what I'm not is it on the same page with the quarterback yet. So if the quarterback's here, I need to be here. Yeah. That's the only sort of, I'm not worried about it, but it makes me scratch my head like, okay, this is a new offense. Second-year quarterback, really first-year quarterback.
Yeah.
And your two of the three top receivers are not here. Why? Why? Like, what? Unless y'all have discussed this together and whatever, family stuff, I get that. But it's like, why aren't you here? Like, you need to be here. It's only 3 more days. Knock these 3 days out and go on and do what you do. But you have to, and I know they probably set up time, to get together, all of them, at an undisclosed location. I understand that part. But whenever the quarterback is here, I'm here. I'm new to this offense. I'm new to this team. If the quarterback's here, I'm here. I don't care if the coach come up to me and say, hey, listen, you don't have to be here. Oh, is Will here? Yeah. Okay, I'm coming. Even if I'm just coming for the on-the-field stuff, and then I leave. But I'm coming.
We'll see if Brian Callahan addresses that. Again, a long list of players not at voluntary OTAs, including D-Hop, including Traylon Burks, Tyler Boyd, Calvin Ridley, No Chigakonkwo, a long list of players, Jeffrey Simmons, Tavondre Sweat, and Nicholas Petit-Frere, also among that list of players not out at OTAs today. We'll hear from head coach Brian Callahan coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. Tune into 94.9 The Fan today as the Nashville Sounds take on the Gwinnett Stripers on the road. Pre-game at 5:50, first pitch at 6:05, with coverage also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 949thefan.com. Sounds baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks Family Leisure, 5 Points Roofing, and Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025-1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app. We are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. And we are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Titans just wrapped up their final practice before training camps. Let's hear from head coach Brian Callahan at the podium.
To work with a team, they try to make that work. So we had trying to make sure we had a dance partner because they get filled up pretty quick with teams practicing together, and so we had requested to work with Seattle, knowing that they'd be one of our likely preseason opponents. And I talked to Mike for a little bit in the spring, and they were all on board. So excited about it. It's great work. I love joint practices. We'll get 2 days of really good work against Seattle prior to our game that Wednesday and Thursday, since we play Saturday. But it's great. I'm looking forward to it. We had some conversations about some of the other teams that we play to see if we could make that work. Logistically, it gets hard, but I do 2 weeks or 3 weeks of it if we could. It really changes up training camp, and you get to evaluate your guys versus other people, other schemes. So excited about it. I love doing the joint practices, and I think our guys do too.
Mike, progress made from the start of the program until, as you said, today wrapping up. You feel good about the progress on both sides of the ball?
Yeah, I feel really good. It's a lot of work. When you sit and reflect back to just the amount of things we've had to get done in a short amount of time, our players have done a fantastic job learning the information, being able to apply it. We've thrown all kinds of stuff at these guys from a scheme standpoint, from a technique standpoint, and to their credit, they've done a really nice job of attacking those things and handling the information. It's exciting to me to see a team that works the way our team works and handles the amount of things that we've put on them over the course of a 10-week offseason program, and really can't ask for much more than what we got out of these guys over this offseason program, and puts us in a position to have a good training camp. It doesn't guarantee anything other than that, and hopefully when they get here in July, we're ready to roll and have great familiarity with what we're asking, and we can play fast and get better and have a chance to compete come September.
Obviously not available again today, but how is he conditioning wise, and is that any kind of concern as you take your break and get ready to come back for camp?
I'm not concerned, no. It's just one of those things that sort of lingered on him a bit. Again, don't anticipate it being a long-term issue for us, but didn't have any sense to rush him out here, not feeling perfect. And so he'll get his work over the summer. He's got a plan in place, and I'm confident that he'll execute it. So biggest thing for him is working still and getting in shape, ready to roll. He's obviously working, not in front of everybody, but he's here working. He's not getting the full field work, but he's here and he's getting his work in. So anticipate him being ready to roll, and we'll see what he's got in training camp.
Players a program to follow for these next 6-8 weeks, or you kind of just trust them to?
No, guys there's programs available. Our strength staff does a great job. They give them a take-home program to follow, some guidelines, things they suggest they do, so they're ready to roll. And the key is to not waste the work they've done at this point. Take some time, take a week or two, take a break, but you hit after July 4th, it's getting close. It's time to go, and these guys are pros and they understand that. But we give them any resource they need. Our staff, performance staff, is here every day. So if guys are in town, want to get a workout, they can come in and work. There's no regulations against that. So they've done a great job, I think, with the designing of the program and with the take-home program as well. Guys have whatever they need available to them.
Is that kind of your message to them? Like, on top of that note, just making sure you're taking advantage of opportunities the next 2 months and a month and a half?
Yeah, they know it. They know what's coming, and everybody in football gets to, I get to about the 4th of July and I start getting a little antsy. I can feel it. I feel the season coming. I feel the urgency start to pick up. I relax a little less at that point. But, yeah, these guys know. They know what it takes. Very rarely do you have guys report out of shape. Everyone's usually pretty much dialed in and ready to go because, they know what's in front of them. A 17-game season with a training camp is pretty daunting, and they know what they need to get ready. And the message is you've worked really hard at this point. Let's not take a step back. Let's be ready to hit the ground running when we start up in July.
How do you feel like your rookies have done during this time since they reported for rookie mini camp to the growth of them now?
They've done a really nice job. The rookie experience in their first off season is always really difficult. They're coming off of college seasons and training for a combine. Then they get into the 30 visits, and then all of a sudden they get drafted. And there's just a lot of things that go on, and then all of a sudden they hit the ground running, and they're expected to learn football and learn new schemes and new systems and really be professionals for the first time in their life. And that part takes some growing and some learning, and they've done a really nice job of drinking out of that proverbial fire hose, if you will, and taking a lot of information. It's starting to slow down for some of them. Some of them it'll slow down as we get started in camp, and then they play that first preseason game and they realize, oh, it's still just football, and usually by then they're starting to make cases for whatever jobs they're competing for. But it is a process for those guys, and I think they've done a nice job.
Has a guy like Willy put himself in position when training camp gets here to go compete?
Yeah, I think all the rookies, even the UDFA guys that we've signed have put themselves in position with the way that they've worked here. Their mental approach has been really positive, and so they understand that this is also, we get to training camp, it's for real. There's competition for jobs, and I don't know too many NFL football players, and these are grown men that are competing for jobs, for feeding their families, and it turns a little bit. The competition ramps way up, and I think these rookies understand that. But if you want a job in this league, you got to go take it, and that's the sort of competition you have to have. And I think our guys have that mindset. They've been learning this whole offseason program, but the temperature changes when you get back in July, and it's a little more serious. And guys are really competing for spots, trying to make our team better, but ultimately trying to find themselves a job. And I think those guys are up to the task. It'll make our team better for it.
How likely is
those rookies still have some work to do either here or on their own in the next 2 weeks before we come back?
Absolutely, they do. You don't take it for granted. This is the first time they'll probably ever really be on their own, in the sense that no one's holding their hand over the summer. There's no summer workout program. They're on their own. Everything's available to them, but they got to figure out what they need to get themselves ready to play. And a lot of them don't know what that looks like because they've never played that long of a season before. So their education really never stops this whole first year. They still have to be here for about another week. And then they'll get some time to themselves. They need a break too, but they also know that this is, it's go time in July. You're competing for a roster spot, and the expectation is you're ready to do that. So there's a lot that they still have to learn. They still got to keep studying. They still got to keep working to put themselves in that position. But so far, everything has shown me that they're up to that task.
How likely is it between now and the opening of camp that you could still add a player or two, a veteran, maybe to create a little competition, a little depth there?
Oh yeah, there's opportunities to add all the way through. I mean, there's time now we can still add, and then there's also another player movement at the end of in training camp when you talk about roster cuts. But yeah, we're still actively looking. We'll never stop that process. We're always looking to add players that we think can help us in the right places. So I would say that's an open-ended question, because it's a constant. Our pro personnel guys are always looking to see where we can get a little bit better and maybe add some competition and some depth. So that door's always open until it's not allowed to be open anymore.
How have you outlined or kind of sketched out this offseason for Will and getting him ramped up to training camp?
For like the summertime?
Correct.
Yeah, he's got his process. He's going to take a little time for himself, spend some time with his family, and then he's got a little trip with some of those receivers planned, a little bit of a work bonding and enjoyment trip, if you will, a chance for those guys to go get their minds right for the season. And then I know he'll take a little bit of time off of throwing, just because that's usually what quarterbacks do, and then they come back in July and start ramping up probably 2 weeks before training camp to get ready to roll. So he's got a good process in place. He's got a plan for the summertime, which is good. It shows some leadership and some ownership over his process away from here, which is good. So I feel really good about his plan.
Is there a particular message you want to ingrain within him going into the offseason?
Other than what we've talked about every day, I just think for him, the most important part is keeping that urgency and tempo in how he plays. Keep playing faster, keep playing with more confidence, and that comes with more reps. I really was happy with how he progressed, learning a brand new way of playing football this year, and there's going to be plenty more reps in training camp in the preseason, and the key is to be ready to roll in September, playing at the speed that you got to play at the position in the NFL. And he's improved every day he's come out here, and it's really all I can ask of him at this point is to keep getting better over the course of the summer and the training camp, and we'll be ready to roll. I feel really good about where he's at.
You've said a couple different times that this offseason has been the busiest you've ever had with all sorts of things. Do you need a little extra time this late June and July to
Yes.
get ready? How do you organize your time to make sure you're ready to go full go?
Yeah, I keep adding stressful things on top of stressful things. Our moving truck is currently packing up in Cincinnati. It'll be here on Thursday, so now I got to add moving into a house and getting my family here for the first time as Nashville residents. So one more thing to add to the list of things that got to get done. But I'll take some time. I'll take a break. But at the end of the day, I'm so focused on where this team can be and getting ready to go play football that, that part's fun for me. I don't really worry about that part too much. I like it. I enjoy it. So the work part doesn't bother me. But I'll get a little break. I need one.
All right, last one.
I think it means a lot. I think that's a testament to that group. That's a group that generally has to work as one, probably more than any group on the team. Those 5 guys that are playing have to be dialed in. They got to be together. Every good offensive line I've ever been around spends a lot of time together. And so having them all here, that's just one more time that they're together. I think they realize the importance of that, especially with young players. You have a rookie left tackle, a second-year guard, a brand-new center. So there's moving parts, and the more those guys are together, the better off we're going to be. And I think they realize that and understand how important that is. So for me, it's great to see. I love seeing all those guys, all the big linemen all running around together and practicing together, because that's the only way I know that you can have a good unit is guys that spend time together.
All right, Titans head coach Brian Callahan at the podium after practice final OTA before training camp in mid-July. Mentioned Sweat. Talked about how Sweat was not out on the field there today, and he said, look, we don't think we're dealing with anything major. Some things been lingering. And what Brian Callahan said there was, look, he's still getting work in. He's just not able to get on the field working. And look, if Sweat's hurt, Sweat's hurt. You're not going to rush him out there just to get him out there for an OTA. But on the field work is important. He's going to have to get on the field work at some point. So to your point, D-Mase, whenever they're back out on the fields for training camp, if Brian Callahan says it's minor, well, then I would expect Chavondre Sweat to be out there and available in late July, over a month from now.
Yeah, you hope so. He said it's just some lingering issues. And I can only assume, it has something to do with possibly not him not being, in good enough shape to be out there. Or it could be a soft tissue injury. And the last thing you want to do is throw and Coach Callahan sort of went through like what these rookies go through. And I think I've said it a million times. They're not conditioning for a 17, 18, 20-plus game NFL season. They are working out to get drafted. That's all they're doing. They're not really working on conditioning. They're just working on tests. And then once you get into camp, you truly find out, man, this is hard. I should have did more. But because of the situation, you were working out to set up a draft position. You wasn't working out for an NFL season. Now, only one person did that, and that was Marvin Harrison. We'll see how that goes, and if it goes well, I guarantee you more individuals will go along the lines of Marvin Harrison Jr. because you see a lot of young guys with soft tissue injuries. That means they're not in condition for what a NFL season brings. Not just game, but practice and everything else. So, hopefully he won't have any of these problems once camp starts. Hopefully he comes in shape and ready to go. So we'll see.
God help him if he doesn't.
Yeah, if he doesn't come in.
It doesn't seem like they're really concerned that it will start that way. But I think everybody will be watching closely, as you would imagine. But now he's going to be out of sight, out of mind. It's going to be up to him to do the work. And that's away from everybody, away from the spotlight, and be ready to go.
And he's been out of sight. Just not necessarily out of mind.
Right.
Nah.
The reason why he's not out of mind is because he is, in fact, out of sight. Yeah. Another thing that stood out to me there from Brian Callahan is him talking about how important it is that the offensive linemen spend time together. How much they build that chemistry on the field, off the field, because it's a unit. It's not 5 individuals. It is one unit as the offensive line. That's another thing that concerns me about Nicholas Petit-Frere, is that he hasn't been able to be out on their field. And Brian Callahan talked about how much newness there is on the line. Rookie left tackle, a second-year guard in Peter Skoronski, a brand-new center in Lloyd Cushenberry, a new coach in Bill Callahan. Yet Nicholas Petit-Frere hasn't been able to be out there. He missed the first half of the season due to the gambling suspension and then got hurt at the end of last season. His rookie season, he got hurt. He hasn't played a lot of football over the last 2+ years, and then obviously hasn't been able to be out on the practice field either. a coach saying how important it is for an offensive line to be together, you'd like to see the offensive line be together. So that's another thing. We talk a lot about Devondre Sweat not being out there. Nicholas Petit-Frere not being out there is a concern to me as well.
Yeah, and you wonder what it is, and obviously he still could be dealing with some postseason, after season, things he had to get done as far as medical, so they want to bring him on slowly. But you just hope that once camp starts, he's ready to go, because Coach Callahan is right. Other than possibly the wide receivers and the quarterback, that's the one unit that needs to spend the most time. The more time they spend together, the better they are, if indeed they have the ability to play the position. Because we've seen it. Even if you're there all the time, you ain't got the ability to play position, it's going to look bad, Dillard. But no, if you got the skill to play the position, I think offensive line is the one position that the more time you spend together, the more reps you get, the better or the more comfortable you become with one another, because you start to learn one another and your strengths and your weaknesses, and you're only as strong as your weakest link, and that's true for the offensive line. You're only as strong as your weakest link. So for them guys to spend as much time together is going to be critical this upcoming season.
Anything else that stood out from Callahan there to either of you?
Oh man, no, not
really. Much. I didn't really feel like there was a lot of newsworthy stuff there, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah. So I guess adding a veteran
to some degree. I mean, it's going to be.
roster.
We're still in the honeymoon here, and so I would hope that there aren't.
There aren't a lot of stuff.
Yeah, at this point, there shouldn't be.
Yeah, but
it's all questions that cannot be answered until it's really time.
I would be surprised if they add like a significant.
And he did say he was going to add, but he did say that
Yeah.
they are always looking. It's kind of the stock answer, but I did get the feeling that they are going to add a player.
They add, but they're going to
believe
add
it.
probably
Yeah.
later on, either right before camp or once they get into camp. I'm talking about a significant add-on to the roster, like a Justin Simmons or a Micah Hyde, somebody like that.
Do you think it would be a position not safety?
Yep.
An inside linebacker
I think
or
it'd
right
be
tackle?
inside backer. I think it'd be tight end. They could possibly. You can never have too many cornerbacks in camp. They added probably another lineman or two. Because you just got to have. You have to have the bodies for camp. So I'm sure they will add, whether it be, free agent first year guys, add them to the roster a little bit later, right before camp, or veteran guys that they add to the roster. But I think, like you said, inside backer, tight end, cornerback, and obviously offensive line. You want to have as many offensive linemen as you possibly can. So.
And Brian Callahan did mention it off the top of his press conference. The Titans will have joint practices with the Seahawks. They have a preseason game with the Seahawks on August 17th, and then I believe it's either Wednesday, Thursday, or Thursday, Friday of that week. The Titans will have joint practices. I love joint practices.
Oh, joint practices are cool.
That's really what I feel like the good test of. Okay, well, the defense looks good. Does that mean the defense is good or that the offense is bad? Well, you get a more nuanced view of that in joint practices and training camps. So.
And that was echoed by Callahan. He says, if we could do more of that, I would do more. Interesting answer.
Yeah, because you know that there's no brother-in-law involved, which means in the football world, like, hey man, this play, let's take off. Like we both mutually agree, like, okay, this play going.
We're
the
not
other
going
side.
hard.
Yeah,
on
we're
this
not
one.
gonna go hard on this. So that's what I mean by brother-in-law.
And also playing the play, like
Exactly.
that's always a problem when you're running stuff. You're like, I know you know the play.
Exactly, like, dude,
Right.
why are you running all? You know the ball's going over there, and then you itch your way over there, and then you run all the way over there. Like, dude, you knew the play. Like, why are you doing that?
It happens in basketball too. I'm hearkening back to
Oh,
me
I hate
as the
that.
backup.
I hated it.
A lot of times practicing against the starters, and they're running their plays. I know the plays.
Like,
So the coach was like, "Don't play the play." Okay, I was just erase my mind.
Okay.
I know the play.
Let me make up my own play then. Like,
Exactly. Like, what do you expect me to do? So,
Or he would have us, close your eyes. So he would give the signal of the play, or he would whisper it. We can hear him whisper something. Special. Oh, okay. Here comes special.
Okay,
I'm switching out on this thing. I'm gonna look like the hero.
You ain't slick.
Oh man. So yeah. So you just hope that that whole thing and offensive linemen who they bring in, whoever they bring in, they're gonna feel can help the team in some capacity. So.
We'll get into your thoughts on this coming up next. We've got a bunch of Titans reaction, whether a reaction to Brian Callahan's press conference or the safety market. Again, the news of yesterday afternoon, the Dolphins have signed veteran safety Marcus May. Does that mean that the Titans should expedite their process of bringing in a veteran safety or not? We'll get to you coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you want to get in on the conversation, Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, we are brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
Hey, this is Derek Mason, and you heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff at Cool Springs MD for some time. If you have set out to lose weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a resolution to shed some extra pounds, only to face disappointment. But at Cool Springs MD, I always got a solution, people. Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. And here it is. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific to you. Connect with Dr. Lodge and CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you, people. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
The Savannah Bananas are coming to Nashville, and you can meet the team's players and coaches, plus win tickets to their sold-out games this weekend. I'm gonna go see the Savannah Bananas.
Savannah Bananas.
Sounds like fun.
I don't want to be controversial.
Willy,
I'm not a fan.
Willy.
I'm not a fan.
They sold out Fenway
I know.
Fenway Park.
I know.
Are you kidding me?
Come on, Willy.
Willy.
I wouldn't go.
What?
He's a trash pandas kind of guy. I get it.
You're trash panda?
I like watching baseball games. Not. I just wouldn't go.
Willy, you are such a fun sucker.
Yeah, man. Gosh, Willy. Man. Get off my lawn. That's you, Willy, right now.
Well, if Willy wins tickets, then I will gladly take them off your hands.
Okay, I'll call you.
Well, you can join Chase McCabe and Big Joe this Friday from 9 to 11 at the Dunkin' in Cool Springs at 500 Cool Springs Boulevard for more details. We've got a bunch of thoughts in our text line. We've got Titans thoughts, reaction to Brian Callahan, thoughts on the safety market, and Predators off-season thoughts as well. So unless we have some thoughts,
let's get to those phones.
let's get to the phones. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dylan texts in reacting to Brian Callahan's press conference and says he also kind of indicated that Levis will be playing in the preseason. I do wonder.
I hope so.
I hope so.
I
He needs to
wonder
play.
what the balance of the preseason quarterbacking will be. I wouldn't be surprised to see a decent
It
bit
will
of
be
Will
Malik
Levis.
Willis every game, every snap. Isn't that what it's basically been the last 2 years?
Yeah, basically the
Yeah.
last 2 years. But I think Will has to play in every game.
You gotta get him in
honestly.
there.
He
He
has to
needs
play
to
in
play.
every game, whether he's
Think every
playing.
game?
Yeah, because you only got 3 of these games. And he needs as much work behind this, new revamped offensive line. Then he needs as much work with those receivers as he can possibly get. You don't want to put him in harm's way, no. But you want to be able to put him out there and, see how it looks running some of the stuff that you want to run with these guys out there. So I don't think he's graduated from not playing preseason games. He needs to play every preseason game now. A series or 2 is good for me, but he needs to play every preseason game.
I think he needs to be in there to get acclimated to the offense in a game setting because you can speak to it better than any of us. Practice is practice and training camp is training camp. And while they're incredibly important, nothing can mimic an actual game and in-game play.
No, because practices are still, controlled. They're still controlled, no matter how you may call a live period. It's still controlled. You still ain't hitting the quarterback. You still ain't taking the running back down half the time. It's like you're protecting your players, and rightfully so. But in the game, there's no control. It's like you run your plays, I run mine. I don't know what you're running. You don't know what I'm running for the most part, and we're playing it honest. So I get a better assessment of what my quarterback or what my offensive line looks like if I see them in actual games.
Because I think that right now, training camp, the preseason, it's not just about Will Levis learning the offense, learning Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd. It's also Brian Callahan learning Will Levis.
And everybody's learning Brian Callahan. Like every player, everything is new. Your coordinators are both. That's to me another reason, not just Levis, but I think all veterans should play maybe a little bit more than they would have in a system that is left over from the last 2 or 3 years. I think that's how I would lean. That's me.
But they will be. I think they are one of the teams because they got a new head coach. They will be coming into practice a little bit earlier. They're allowed to come some days earlier than everybody else, so that will help. But again, I think even though they're going to have the practice with Seattle, still that's controlled because nobody wants anybody to get hurt.
Nobody's going to hit anybody.
Exactly, absolutely. It's still controlled to a certain extent.
It's not going to be like, remember last year when everybody was talking about Ryan Tannehill starting in the preseason game and then he handed the ball off 3 times and then he benched?
Put the hat on. Yeah.
It ain't gonna be that. No, it's not gonna be that. No, I hope it's not that. Let's just say that.
It better not be
Yeah,
that.
that's
It better
that's
not be
just
that.
That really helped him stay healthy.
Yeah, it really did. Those 3 handoffs really helped him stay healthy, people.
And I mean, he had a great year after that.
Yeah.
So thank goodness he came in for the 3 handoffs. Ben texts in and says, Brian Callahan said rookie left tackle, second-year guard, and a new center. Wow, I kind of feel like we don't have a right guard or a right tackle that is starting caliber. That is, I don't know who what the right side is going to look like.
No, I mean,
I guess Raiden's at right guard.
Know what
Sadiq Charles at right guard.
It seems like it's going. Let's just say they start off with Ratings and then Nicholas at the right tackle. Then those guys got to start to build that chemistry together. That's just how it is. Not to say we don't have something is factually incorrect. They do have a right tackle. They're trying to see if it's going to work out, if he's gotten better from last season, if changing the coach helps with the offensive line in their growth. So they do have a right tackle. They do have a right guard. But
are they good?
They got to prove it.
Yeah.
They got to prove that they are worthy of being starters. And I think, but that happens with every team. Every year, there are a few positions you got to prove that you are a starter in this league.
One texter texts in about the Predators, says, is the reason the Predators are such an old team because of bad drafting like the Titans? So I think you could say the Titans are an older team now because they had to just pick up free agents. They had to pick up older, aging players to kind of fill holes like DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Boyd, so on and so forth. So the reason the Predators are such an old team because of bad drafting like the Titans.
I don't think that they are an old team. I think they leaned older as the season went along. I don't think they will be as old when they start next season. And I think when you look back at how the roster shook out at the beginning of last season when Cody Glass was a big part of their plans and he didn't have a very good year, got hurt a lot. Parsonen and Tomasino were given huge opportunities to play. You know, that's a pretty good nucleus of younger players that they replaced with older players at the deadline. And so I would be surprised if the roster looks older next year. I do see what he's saying, but they were winning, right? And I think that's why they wanted to add a couple veterans like Beauvillier and Zucker, and that made them older, right? And they those guys were taking the place of younger players. I think you want to leave an avenue for younger players to jump in there. You want to blend, right? If you have a whole it's nice to be able to say, we are the youngest team in the league. Who are the youngest teams in the league? Well, Buffalo, Anaheim. The teams they're going to be picking in the first round of the draft in the first 5 or 6 picks, those tend to be the younger teams in the league. So you don't want to be too young, right, if you're trying to win. You want a blend of young talent and veteran talent.
And I think what we all viewed as potentially a youth movement going into last season that obviously didn't come to fruition. That, it was Gus Nyquist, who was in his 30s, and Ryan O'Reilly in his 30s, and Philip Forsberg, and obviously Roman Josi being cores of this team, not being the youngest players out there, Ryan McDonough. There was a lot of contribution from older players. I think I was listening to Robbie and Adam this morning. I think they said the average age of the Predators was 29 point something. So obviously the Predators need to get younger.
Is that how they ended the season?
That's how they went into the playoffs.
Right.
So that's obviously Ryan McDonough gets traded back to Tampa Bay.
Right. That's McDonough, Beauvillier, Zucker, all part of that equation.
Yes, but Barry Trotz said it. They need to get younger.
Yeah, I think they will get younger.
Roster full of infants.
I'm pretty confident saying I could be wrong. If that age goes up, I will. I will apologize to everybody. It's going to get younger, and they still have all these young players that they were excited about last year. Now, will they trade one or two of them maybe to get a more established guy? They could think about that for sure. But those guys are just a year older, but they're still, I think, prospects. I'm not ready to give up on every one of them. There's some of them we haven't seen yet that are still very, very young. And I've mentioned them more than once, but Kemmel, LaRue, Svechkov, to name three, all forwards, all still 21, 22, that I think are just getting to the age where they might get into the lineup. They need an infusion of production from some of these younger players. Parsonen is another one that I think could be much, much better next year than he was last year. It's not like he completely fell off a cliff and did nothing. He had his moments, but when the team's trying to win, they couldn't wait around for the inconsistency. Same thing with Tomasino. So they sent those guys down, and their roster got older, right? They started using Janikowski. They started using Sherwood. They started using – they traded for Zucker and Beauvillier. That upped that age. So it could be different next year. But if you're winning, you want the guys that are getting it done.
You want to mix.
If the younger guys had gotten it done last year, we would have been talking about, hey, look at all these young guys.
You want to mix, especially where the Predators are at this point. that they're not in a Stanley Cup window right now, that you want to continue to build on that, but you also need veteran pieces to supplement the young talent that is still developing and growing into your future core. Another texter texts in. You're going to love this one, Willy. Saros has proved time and time again that he cannot win in the playoffs. It's time to ship him off and let Askarov be the number one.
Well, I think we know that's not happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we haven't heard enough, Saros is going to get signed with the Predators. Whether you agree with that decision or not, it seems like that is inevitable unless someone comes in offering the world, which I don't think is necessarily going to happen with how headstrong the Predators are with re-signing UC Saros.
You know, I hope people have listened to the masses, or not the masses. What has been coming down from the top pretty consistently is they don't believe Askarov is ready for that at this point. If he were, I think it would be a much different discussion. But it's very clear the signals that everybody's sending from the top. He's not ready yet. Someday, hopefully, he will be. But to ship off Saros and move in on Askarov, that would be a very, very bold move, to say the least. Not even telling me what you would get in a trade for Saros. But I think it's also important to take a look at what's going on around the league. There are teams desperate to get a better goalie, and they don't have one. The Predators have one in Saros. He's only played in 3 playoff series, as we've documented. He hasn't played poorly in the last 2 in particular, and he's never really played in front of a team that has all of the pieces, I think, to really make the run. Like, would we say Shesterkin, Ottinger, to name 2 of his peers that are going to get new contracts this year, those guys have had a better opportunity to win in the playoffs than Saros, right? The supporting cast in front of those guys has been better, would we say? Maybe not by a huge, large margin, but better.
Yeah, and that's what we've said is the
Predators haven't been a favorite. The Predators have been an underdog in the last 2 series that Saros has played in. The 3rd series is in the bubble in 2020. I don't put a ton of stock in that one. That was a long time ago in a weird deal where nobody played for 2 months. There was no crowd. And I grant you, he did not play well in that. And he had that Pecorine kind of looming thing going on at the time. He had sort of taken the reins. It had to be not easy for him. He hasn't played in a lot of playoff games. This is kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah. And
so it's too early to say. Time and time again. We're talking about 2 times, really. Two series.
And the bubble series.
The bubble series is the 3rd series.
Yeah.
I put that in a little bit of a separate category. I don't know about you. I mean, the pandemic was going on. They didn't play it everybody showed up in the summer when nobody had played for months. Like, that was weird.
It was funky. Ben texts in and says, which safeties have been getting paid more recently? The ones that primarily do coverage or the ones that do everything? I don't know the best way to look that up. I know both safety positions are not the same. I guess scheme also affects it. The Titans paying a safety and a running back when some teams don't pay either might have cost us staying relevant after 2021. In terms of what, like free safety versus box safety versus, what exactly do individual safeties do best? I don't know which ones get paid necessarily more or not. But overall, if you look at the trend of the league, safeties as a whole, whether it's more of a free safety, more of a box safety, more of a a cornerback-esque safety that's more sticky in coverage, they're not getting paid very much compared to the rest of maybe different positions in the league, or maybe what they were getting previously.
Yeah, I don't know. Listen, if you have a good safety, a Pro Bowl safety, an All-Pro safety, you're going to pay that person. That's just the way it is. But how many of these guys, or what's the average of these guys, or who gets paid more, I don't quite know. Now, listen, if you're a versatile, safety that can play in the box, that can also coverage, then your value to the team is a lot more than a guy that can just get in the box, or a guy that's not a good tackler. All this started to change years ago. At least I saw it change right around Rod Woodson, because he went from corner to safety and excelled at safety. I'm talking about guys that sort of moved around, because Blaine was great. and you can even say Blaine too, sort of was that guy that can cover, but also be a thumper. But then after Woodson, it was Charles Woodson that did it. So, and then you had Ed Reed and Troy Polamalu, guys that were versatile in what they were doing. They can line up on a receiver or tight end, or they can blitz from, either side of the field, or be damn good in coverage on the back end. So those guys like that are going to make the most money. Other guys, if the more you can do, the more you tend to get paid. So I'm sure if you look at the pay scale, you're looking at guys that are multiple in what they can do.
All right, coming up next, we had Florida extended their lead in the series against Edmonton 2-0 last night. We've got NBA Finals coming up tomorrow. But I do wonder, when we look at the Stanley Cup Finals, where are Predators fans? Where are people in Nashville? Is there any, what's the rooting interest? We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Paul, I do want to ask you about the evolution defensively of this team since you've arrived, but just quickly, because I think you're holding back. How do you feel about the hit on Barkov?
This isn't the Oprah Winfrey Show. My feelings don't matter.
I just love that clip so much. That was Paul Maurice, Florida Panthers head coach, last night. So if you missed it, Leon Draisaitl hits Alexander Barkov like right under the jaw, in the mouth, lower head area. That was Paul Maurice saying, "This is not the Oprah Winfrey Show. My feelings don't matter." I love that. But, that was obviously debated a lot last night on Twitter. I personally think it should have been a 5-minute major rather than a 2-minute minor. There's been talk about, should he get suspended? And I think that's a little bit dramatic. But all of that to say, I wonder how much people in Nashville are following the Stanley Cup final and where the rooting interests lie. I think Predators fans probably want good things from Mattias Ekholm. But beyond that, I wonder what's the buy-in? Not even just with the Stanley Cup playoffs, but with the NBA Finals as well. Is there a big rooting interest in town? I don't feel it necessarily.
I think Ekholm is the one guy that is in that category of a former Predator that people have great thoughts about. They think he's a class guy.
A quote-unquote hometown hero.
Yeah, you'd like to see him win. You'd feel really good for him if the Oilers win. Other than that, I just think it's interesting to watch, and I feel like I'm looking at the team construction just because we've talked so much about how do you build the winner, what are the different ways. There's no one way to do it, but, just as an observation, Sergei Bobrovsky made a year, and the Panthers still have the deeper team, and it's not even close, really. Than the Oilers. At least that's what it looks like right now. But I think that is what has separated. They have found a way to build a deeper roster, even with the goalie making $10 million. I think back to a recent interview that Jared had with Barry Trotz, and he kind of asked, can you build the roster with the goalie making a high salary? Because, I think Florida feels all right about where they are, even though, if you look at the whole length of Bobrovsky's contract at $10 million a year, there were a couple of years in there where he wasn't playing real well, and people were saying, what an albatross that contract is, right? But now it's turned back around as he started to play better. He's a Vezina finalist, and he's giving them a big advantage over Stuart Skinner, who is still – he's played well, but it's still a little bit of on everybody's mind for the Oilers. It's like, is Skinner going to come through? Is he going to come through? They're trying to make it happen with him in goal, and he's a good goalie. He's not a top level goalie. So I'm curious from that standpoint. But I look at roster construction and I look at the matchups, and I just know, listening to Barry Trotz and Andrew Brunette, they like a lot of what Florida is doing. Yeah. Andrew Brunette did coach this Panthers team a couple years ago with some of the same players, and I think he wants to build a team that looks a little bit more like the Panthers, so I'm watching the Panthers for that reason.
And that does seem like the more replicatable, whatever word you want to use.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, yes. That seems like the easier thing to copy.
Yes.
Because you're not going to find Draisaitl and McDavid on the street. So you can't just recreate what the Oilers have built if you don't have your Batman and Robin.
And Draisaitl, you did mean to do that, okay? I know you came out and said it wasn't anything dirty, but no. The way you launched at that man with your elbows going to his face, you meant to send a message. Now, whether you meant to hurt him and put him out, I don't. But you knew exactly what you were doing when you launched at him with your elbow. You knew exactly what you were doing.
Right.
Exactly. You were trying to send a message. You were frustrated. Yeah. You probably didn't mean to hurt him, but hey. It wasn't cool. It should have been a 5-minute major.
Well, and the question going forward is Barkov okay? He's a critical player. He is the guy that's getting the checking assignment against Draisaitl's line. And is Draisaitl going to be suspended? Unsuspended? I don't know.
If you tell me if
it comes out that Barkov is out for the next game,
you got to suspend.
Then if I'm the Panthers, I want Draisaitl out for the next game.
That's fair. Totally fair.
But I don't know if you can really do it that way, can you?
Yeah, you can if you do what you
You're
want
not
to.
supposed to, but you kind of, it's justice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All's fair in love, war, and hockey.
Eye for an eye.
That's going to do it for us today. We will be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Stillman & Company's up next.
Be love and love on your people. Happy Tuesday and peace.